The first strike came without warning. It was not a test. It was not a message. It was meant to end humanity in one single move. From the dark side of the moon, massive alien warships appeared. Their hulls were black, like shadows carved from space itself. The moment they revealed themselves, they fired. Entire fleets of human satellites burned in silence. Communications went dark. Across Earth, military radars lit up with signals they had never seen before. It was the beginning of a war no one had asked for. The aliens expected panic. They expected fear. They expected Earth to fall back, to hide behind its fragile defenses, to surrender. To them, humanity was young, primitive, untested, a species that should break easily under pressure. But they had made a mistake so large it would turn their invasion into a catastrophe. The first 5 minutes of the attack brought chaos. Cities lost contact. Space stations flickered out, powerless. In the silence above Earth, human fleets tried to form lines, but their technology was outmatched. The alien weapons cut through shields like paper. Explosions burned silently across the void. Thousands of lives vanished in the first wave. Inside a hidden command bunker under the Atlantic, human generals watched the horror unfold. Their voices were calm, but their eyes told the truth: rage, fear, determination. The commander of Earth's Defense Council stood tall, his hand clenched around the table. He knew what the aliens expected. They thought humanity would beg, thought Earth would retreat. But he gave a single order that would change everything. Do not fall back. Fight. The soldiers heard the command. Pilots scrambled to their ships. Submarines rose from the deep oceans, launching missiles skyward. Ground-based cannons activated, filling the skies with fire. Humanity's answer was not retreat. It was resistance. But still, the difference in power was clear. Alien fleets moved with terrifying precision. Every human counterattack seemed to weak. Ships fell one by one. Some officers whispered the war was already lost. Some even prayed. Yet inside the heart of every human soldier, a strange fire was burning. It was the kind of fire the aliens had never known. The first unexpected blow came from Earth's outer colonies. On Mars, miners turned engineers had been secretly building rail cannons, massive weapons designed to defend against asteroid impacts. When the alien fleet turned toward Mars, the cannons roared. Huge projectiles, the size of buildings, shot across space faster than the eye could follow. One alien destroyer, then another, then a third, all shattered in moments. The aliens paused. For the first time in centuries of conquest, their advance was slowed. In the deep oceans of Earth, another secret waited. Nuclear submarines, built to fight human wars, carried something the aliens did not expect: modified warheads, powerful enough to tear through space armor. As alien ships descended into Earth's atmosphere, the oceans lit up. The submarines fired. Great streaks of fire rose through the clouds, smashing into alien carriers. Entire vessels broke apart and fell like burning stars across the seas. The aliens hesitated. Their plan was breaking apart. They had studied humanity from afar. They knew Earth had weapons, but they believed humans lacked unity. They believed humans would collapse under fear. Instead, what they saw was something else: anger, courage, sacrifice. A force that grew stronger with every ship destroyed, every soldier lost. Above Earth, one alien commander sent a message to his fleet: the humans do not retreat. Adjust tactics. Increase firepower. But even as they prepared for another strike, humanity revealed something else, hidden in orbit. Cloaked in silence was Earth's most guarded secreter prototype warship, built in the shadows of secrecy. Its name was the Aegis. No alien sensors had ever detected it. Carried weapons that even Earth's own fleets had never seen. It was humanity's first real attempt to match alien technology. And now, as the aliens closed in, the Aegis powered up. Its engines roared like thunder across the void. Its cannons hummed with energy. From the shadows, it struck. A single shot blasted across space, tearing through an alien battleship in one clean line of fire. The wreckage burned silently as the aliens froze in shock. That was not the weapon of a primitive species. It was the weapon of a predator. The balance had shifted. Humanity was bleeding, yes. Cities were burning, yes. But they were still standing. And more than that, they were fighting back harder than anyone had expected. The war the aliens thought would be quick was becoming something else. It was becoming catastrophic for the first time. The galaxy would learn what it meant to fight. Humanity, not just their weapons, but their will, their rage, their refusal to die quietly. The aliens had fired the first shot, but humanity had no plans of being the last to fall. The wreckage of the alien battleship still floated in orbit when silence spread across both fleets. For a brief moment, no one moved. Human pilots stared in disbelief at the massive ship breaking apart. Alien commanders froze, their plans disrupted by something they had not foreseen. The Aegis had revealed itself inside its command deck. Captain Eric Vale stood with eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. His ship was the first of its kind, built from decades of secret research hidden even from Earth's allies. The Aegis was designed as humanity's answer to a war no one thought would ever come. And now it had arrived just in time. The alien fleet quickly recovered from its shock. Hundreds of ships turned toward the single human prototype. To them, the Aegis was a threat, but also a target to destroy before it changed the battle further. In their arrogance, they still believed it was just one ship, and one ship could be crushed. But humanity had learned something the aliens had not. One spark was enough to ignite a fire. On Earth's surface, people watched the skies burning. The news spread faster than panic. The world saw alien fleets, yes, but they also saw the Aegis fighting back. It was proof that humanity was not powerless. It was proof that they could resist. In bunkers, in ruined cities, in shelters across the planet, fear turned into something else. Hope. The alien response came like a storm. Their weapons lit up the void. Green and violet beams cut across space, striking toward the Aegis. But the ship was ready. Shields flared, armor plates shifted, and counterfire screamed through the black. Each shot was precise, tearing into alien cruisers. 2 more ships fell in flames. Then 3. Still, the enemy pressed harder. Human fleets tried to regroup. Damaged ships formed walls around Earth. Fighters launched in swarms, many without enough fuel to return. Pilots knew they were not coming back, but they launched anyway. They did not fly for survival. They flew to buy time for the Aegis, for Earth, for the future. The aliens began to adapt. Their tactics shifted. They spread out, circling the Aegis, cutting off its escape. They had destroyed countless civilizations before. They knew how to crush resistance. But what they did not know was this: humanity had been waiting for centuries, always preparing for wars among themselves. And now, that brutal history became their weapon. From the ruins of New York, the ground-based plasma cannon, long kept as an experimental weapon, was dragged to the surface. Engineers wired it with whatever power cells they could find, loaded its core even as alien drones swarmed the skies. With one deafening strike, the cannon fired. A burning spear of light tore through the clouds and hit an alien carrier. The massive ship cracked open, raining fire down into the ocean. The aliens hesitated again. This was not the fragile Earth they expected. This was a world filled with hidden weapons, with desperate warriors willing to fight until nothing remained. Inside the alien command ship, their high general spoke in a calm, cold tone: increase destruction, end their cities, break their unity. And so the war turned darker. Alien fleets stopped targeting only military defenses. Now they aimed for the heart of humanity, its people. Cities became battlefields. Care skylines fell in seconds as beams from orbit cut the ground. Millions died in minutes. The aliens wanted humanity to break, but it had the opposite effect. Every loss only made humanity more furious. Soldiers who had nothing left to lose fought harder. Civilians joined resistance, groups turning homes into strongholds. Across the world, humanity began to fight not just with weapons, but with everything they had, hacking alien drones, sabotaging landing forces, even ramming ships into enemy targets. And above all, the Aegis continued to strike. Its captain knew they could not win in a direct fight forever. The enemy numbers were too large. So he gave a different order. Target their command. Cut the head of the beast. The Aegis shifted course. Instead of defending Earth directly, it pushed deeper into the alien formation. Its guns roared with fury, shields burning bright as wave after wave of fire slammed into it. It took hits. That would have destroyed 10 normal ships, but it kept moving. Every meter gained was bought with blood and steel, and then its sensors locked onto something. At the center of the alien fleet was a massive vessel, darker and larger than the rest. Its energy signature pulsed like a heart. This was no ordinary ship. This was their flagship. The Aegis powered its main cannon. Energy gathered, light filling the ship's core, until it glowed like a second sun. Every human soldier watching knew what was coming. If they could destroy the flagship, they might shatter the entire enemy command. The alien fleet realized too late. They scrambled to block the line of fire, but the Aegis was already locked. The cannon fired. A burning white beam cut across the void. Unstoppable. It slammed into the flagship's shield. For one long second, the void itself seemed to shake. Then the shield broke. The beam tore through the alien vessel, ripping it in half. Silence. Alien ships faltered. Their formation broke. Without orders, they scattered. Humanity had done the impossible. They had killed the enemy commander. Cheers erupted across Earth's remaining defenses. Pilots shouted in disbelief. Civilians wept in shelters. For the first time, it seemed the tide had turned. But inside the wreckage of the alien flagship, something moved. A signal pulsed through the void, cold and sharp. It was not the end. It was a call. The alien fleet was vast, but it was not the whole empire. The message carried far across light years, reaching others. Humanity had struck a deadly blow, but in doing so, they had awakened something far greater. The real war had only just begun. The wreckage of the alien flagship still burned across the stars when Earth's defenders dared to hope. For a heartbeat, it felt like victory. For a heartbeat, humanity believed it had survived the impossible. But hope ended quickly. From the shadows of deep space, the second wave arrived. Dozens, no hundreds of alien warships emerged, pulled through rifts of light. They were larger, darker, and stronger than the first fleet. Their hulls carried scars from other wars across the galaxy. These were not scouts. These were warlords. Humanity had slain a commander, and now the Empire had answered with fury. Inside, the command bunker beneath the Atlantic, the Defense Council fell into silence. Screens showed the incoming fleet blotting out the stars. One general whispered what everyone feared. This is not an invasion, this is extermination. On Earth's surface, cities were still burning from the first attack. Millions were gone, families torn apart. The planet had no time to heal, no chance to rebuild. And now, more enemies were coming. The Aegis floated in orbit, scarred but alive. Its captain, Eric Vall, knew the truth. His ship had become a symbol, but it was also a target. The enemy would not rest until the Aegis was destroyed. If the ship fell, hope might die with it. The second wave moved with precision. They did not rush blindly into battle. They formed walls of steel, each ship covering the other. And then, as one, they advanced. Their weapons glowed, ready to rain death upon Earth. Human fleets, broken and scattered, regrouped around the Aegis. Old ships with patched hulls, half-damaged cruisers, fighters with no fuel to return. Every surviving vessel took its place in the line. No one believed they would survive, but no one planned to surrender. The first exchange of fire shook the void. Alien cannons unleashed storms of plasma, slamming into Earth's defenses. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds. Human ships responded with railguns and missiles, their shots tearing through shields. but the numbers were overwhelming. Every time one alien ship fell, 5 more pressed forward. On Earth, civilians prepared for the worst. Underground shelters filled, children were handed rifles, engineers turned factories into weapon forges. Humanity was no longer just fighting. With armies, they were fighting with everything. But something strange began to happen. The longer the battle dragged on, the more unpredictable humanity became. Alien fleets moved with perfect order, flawless formations, centuries of strategy. Humans, however, fought like chaos itself. Pilots dove headfirst into impossible battles. Ground forces hacked alien drones, turning them against their masters. Submarines used oceans to vanish, then rise like ghosts to strike again. The aliens began to stumble, their strategies perfect against other empires, failed against humans who did not follow rules. The Aegis pushed into the heart of the second wave. Its cannons burned, tearing through ships one by one. But with each victory came damage. Fires spread across its decks. All plates shattered. Hundreds of crew members were gone, yet the ship refused to stop. Inside the command deck, alarms screamed. A missile broke through the shields, tearing a hole across the left wing. Systems failed. The crew looked to their captain, waiting for retreat orders. But Auric Vale only said, "Forward." And so, the Aegis kept advancing even as pieces of it burned away. On the ground, another fight was unfolding. Alien dropships descended into Earth's skies, unleashing armored soldiers. They were tall, stronger than humans, wrapped in metal suits. Their weapons cut through walls with ease. Cities fell street by street, but humanity fought with fury. Civilians ambushed soldiers with homemade bombs. Farmers turned tractors into armored vehicles. Soldiers used old weapons from forgotten wars. Every street became a trap. Every house became a fortress. The aliens expected terror, but what they found was defiance. Above, the battle reached a breaking point. The Aegis had pushed deep enough to reveal something hidden behind the Second Fleet. At the center was not just another flagship. It was a massive construct, unlike anything seen before. A living fortress. Its size dwarfed mountains, its weapons glowing like suns. This was the Empire's true answer. As it powered up, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Energy gathered at its core, building into a weapon strong enough to shatter planets. The crew of the Aegis watched in silence. They knew what it meant. If that weapon fired, Earth would be gone. Alarms rang across the ship. Engineers screamed. Warnings. Weapons could not break the fortress in time. Earth had minutes left. But then, from deep within the Aegis, a secret system unlocked. The ship carried one last weapon, built in silence, never tested, never meant to be revealed so soon. A weapon not of defense, but of annihilation. The captain placed his hand on the activation key. His voice was steady, even as death closed in. If this fails, humanity ends. If it works, the galaxy changes forever. The Aegis began to charge its hidden core. Lights flickered across the hull. The sound of energy building filled the void. Alien ships detected it and panicked. For the first time, their perfect discipline broke. Turned all fire toward the Aegis, desperate to stop it. The countdown had begun. The crew held their breath. The world watched in silence. Either the Aegis would fire war, Earth would burn. The Aegis trembled as its hidden weapon powered up. The ship's core glowed brighter than the stars around it, pulling every last drop of energy into a single point. Crew members held their breath, knowing this was no ordinary cannon. This was humanity's most dangerous secret. Alien fleets swarmed in panic. Their formations broke apart as every ship turned its weapons on. The Aegis, beams of light and storms of plasma slammed into its shields. Decks shook. Fire spread. Crew struggled to keep systems alive. Alarms screamed across every corridor. "Hold the line," Captain Eric Vale said calmly, even as sparks rained from above. His voice was steady, unshaken. "We fire, or we fall." The countdown ticked down 10 seconds. 9, 8. Alien warships closed in, desperate to stop the shot. A cruiser rammed into the Aegis, tearing away armor and shredding weapons. Crew members were thrown from their stations, blood painting the walls, but the ship endured. 7. 6-5. The alien fortress at the center of the fleet glowed brighter, preparing to fire its planet killer. Earth had only minutes left. Humanity's fate would be decided in seconds. 4. 3. A massive blast struck the Aegis, cutting deep into its hull. Hundreds died instantly. The ship groaned, metal bending as if the void itself wanted to crush it. But the core continued. 2. Charge 2. 1. The Aegis fired. The void exploded in light. A beam of raw energy shot from its core, brighter than the sun, burning straight through the alien fortress. The shields cracked. The armor melted. The weapon meant to destroy Earth collapsed in flames. The shockwave tore through the alien fleet, shredding cruisers and splitting destroyers apart. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. For one long moment, silence fell. Human soldiers on the ground stopped fighting and looked to the sky, their faces lit by the glow of victory. Civilians in bunkers cried with relief. Pilots screamed with joy. Earth had survived the second wave, but survival came at a terrible cost. The Aegis was broken. Its hull was split in half. Entire sections drifted away into the void. Fires raged uncontrollably. Thousands of crew members were gone. The ship that had become humanity's symbol of resistance now floated on the edge of death. Inside the shattered command deck, Captain Arik Vale remained standing. His uniform was torn, his face marked with blood, but his eyes still burned with fire. "Damage report," he demanded. 70% of the ship destroyed, an officer whispered. "Weapons offline, shields gone, engines failing." "Can we fight?" the captain asked. The officer shook his head slowly. "No, sir. Cannot." Vale turned to the windows, staring at the remains of the alien fleet. Wreckage burned across the stars. Hundreds of enemy ships were gone. Their fortress was destroyed. Yet deep inside him, he knew this was not the end. The Empire would not stop. They would send more, and humanity would not survive another wave like this. On Earth, the Defense Council gathered in silence. They knew the truth as well. Earth had stood against impossible odds, but victory had only awakened greater enemies. Somewhere beyond the stars, alien leaders had already received the signal. Retaliation would come, stronger, deadlier, endless. And yet something had changed. For the first time in history, humanity was united. Nations that once distrusted each other now stood shoulder to shoulder. Soldiers from rival armies fought as brothers. Civilians turned into warriors. Humanity had discovered something even more dangerous than alien technology. They had discovered their will. Across Earth's surface, resistance groups spread. Factories built weapons day and night. Engineers began to study the wreckage of fallen alien ships. Scientists tore apart their technology, searching for weaknesses, searching for ways to make it human. The war had pushed Earth to the edge, but instead of breaking, it had awakened a hunger to grow, to adapt, to fight back harder than ever before. The aliens had expected to crush a fragile species. What they had created instead was something far worse. A predator learning how to hunt in orbit. Rescue ships rushed to the Aegis, pulling survivors from its broken hull. Captain Vale was among the last to leave, refusing to abandon his ship until the final moment. As he stepped aboard the evacuation craft, he looked back at the ruined vessel. It had given everything to protect Earth. Its fire was gone. But its legacy had just begun, because humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were preparing to strike back, far beyond the solar system, in the heart of the alien empire leaders. Gathered in a grand chamber, news of the fortress's destruction reached them. The room shook with anger and disbelief. Never before had a young species caused such devastation. One commander spoke in a voice that rumbled like thunder. "Humanity will not be tolerated. They are a threat. They are to be erased." And so, orders were given. A fleet larger than any before was assembled. Weapons from ancient wars were unlocked. The Empire was preparing for a campaign not of conquest, but of extermination. Expected humanity to break this time. They expected fear, surrender, and silence. But Earth was already changing. Earth was already preparing. The next war would not just decide the fate of one planet. It would decide the fate of the galaxy. The ruins of the Aegis floated silently in orbit. What was once humanity's strongest ship now drifted like a broken monument. Yet for Earth, it was not a symbol of defeat. It was a reminder of survival. Against impossible odds, they had destroyed the alien fortress. Against endless fleets, they had stood their ground. But everyone knew the truth. The Empire was coming back. Stronger on the ground, the world worked without rest. Factories ran day and night. Engineers dismantled the wrecks of fallen alien ships, studying every piece of technology. Weapons that once looked like miracles were now being understood, copied, even improved. Humanity was learning faster than anyone expected. In hidden bases, scientists tested new armor that could resist plasma fire. Pilots trained in captured alien fighters, learning their controls. Even children were taught how to fight, how to survive, how to kill. Humanity had been wounded, but with each scar, it grew harder. Sharper Captain Arikvale, survivor of the Aegis, walked through the underground hangars, where Earth's new fleet was rising. His body carried scars from the last battle, but his eyes burned with the same fire as before. He stopped before a massive ship under construction. It was larger than the Aegis, stronger, designed with stolen alien tech. "Will it be ready in time?" he asked the engineers. One of them, a woman, with grease-stained hands and exhausted eyes, gave a grim smile. "It has to be, because if it's not, we're all dead." They called it the Revenant, a ship built not for defense, but for vengeance. Meanwhile, in space, scouts returned with terrifying news. The alien empire's fleet was assembling beyond the system. It was larger than anything ever recorded, thousands of ships, more than Earth could hope to match. At its center was something even worse than the fortress destroyed before. It was a war engine, a moving world, a weapon so large it carried its own armies, its own factories, its own fleets within. Where it passed, stars themselves seemed to dim. The Empire was not coming to conquer. They were coming to erase. In the bunkers of Earth, the Defense Council met in silence. Maps glowed across the room, showing wave after wave of enemy forces preparing to descend. Even with new weapons, even with the Revenant nearly complete, humanity was still outnumbered. Some whispered of surrender, some whispered of hiding. But then Captain Vale entered the chamber. He stood before the council, his voice low but sharp. "Surrender means extinction. Hiding means extinction. The only path left is war, not survival war." The room fell silent. They all knew he was right, and so humanity made its choice. They would not wait for the Empire to strike again. They would not let Earth become a grave. They would take the war into the stars. It was madness. It was suicide. But it was the only way. The plan was simple, but desperate. Before the alien war engine reached the solar system, humanity would launch a strike. The Revenant, along with every ship Earth could gather, would meet the enemy halfway. They would not fight to win, they would fight to cripple. Would hit the war engine before it reached Earth, no matter the cost. Days passed in a blur. Soldiers said goodbye to families, unsure if they would ever return. Factories produced weapons faster than food. The Revenant came alive, its engines roaring like thunder beneath the ground. And then the day came. Humanity's fleet rose into the skies. Not just soldiers, but everyone who could fight: pilots, engineers, even civilians flying captured alien craft. The fleet was smaller, weaker, scarred, but it carried something no enemy could measure: fury. As the ships left Earth's orbit, millions on the ground looked up. Some prayed, some saluted, some simply watched in silence, knowing their fate rested on those leaving. In the command deck of the Revenant, Captain Vale looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, the Empire's war engine was moving closer. He clenched his fists. "We fight not for today. Fight so humanity has a tomorrow." The fleet entered deep space. Hours later they saw it. The alien armada stretched across the void like a living storm, thousands of ships, glowing with power, their weapons already charged. And at the center, the war engine. A monstrous structure larger than moons, its surface covered in weapons. It moved slowly, like a beast that feared nothing, because nothing had ever stopped it. The Revenant's crew stared in silence. Even the bravest felt fear. Vale broke it with a single word: advance. And so, humanity charged. The first clash lit up the void. Alien cannons opened fire, tearing apart dozens of human ships in seconds. But humanity did not retreat. It dived headfirst into the storm, missiles and railguns screaming. Alien cruisers exploded. Human fighters weaved between fire, striking at weak points. Every loss only drove the survivors to fight harder. The Revenant roared forward, its guns blazing, cut through alien ships like a blade through flesh. The war engine loomed ever closer, its core glowing brighter. The real battle had yet to begin. The Revenant, its fleet charged through the darkness of space. Every sensor was fixed on the war engine ahead. It loomed larger with each passing moment, a fortress of death, armed with weapons that could annihilate planets. Its sheer size made human ships look like insects. Captain Eric Vale stood on the bridge of the Revenant, watching the alien colossus. He knew the truth. Earth's survival depended on what happened in the next few minutes. If they failed, billions of lives would end. Every human ship, every soldier, every weapon was a small spark against a galaxy-sized inferno. Status? Vale asked, his voice steady. Shields at 70%, the officer replied. Weapons ready, but they have too many ships. We will not survive long if we engage directly. Vale clenched his fists. Then we do not engage directly. We hit the core. All of it. Nothing else matters. The fleet advanced. Alien cruisers swarmed like predatory fish, attempting to surround the Revenant. Beams of green plasma cut through the void, striking human ships. Explosions tore apart the first line of defenders. Screams echoed over comms channels, yet humanity did not stop. Fighters dove into impossible positions, ramming alien vessels when their weapons ran out. Railguns fired with deadly precision. Missiles streaked across space, smashing into holes. The void became a storm of fire and metal. The war engine moved forward slowly, almost casually, as if aware of every attack but unmoved by it. Its massive cannons glowed brighter and brighter. Each pulse threatened to tear ships apart. Vale's eyes narrowed. He turned to the fleet commanders. Formation. Delta, focus on the engines. We disable it, or we die trying. Now, the fleet adjusted. Small squadrons darted toward the war engine's core defenses, dodging beams and plasma blasts. Human ingenuity shone, and the Chaos pilots used debris from destroyed alien ships as cover, firing from impossible angles. Engineers on the Revenant remotely hacked smaller enemy ships, turning them against their own fleet. The alien forces were brutal. They fired everything they had, striking with unmatched precision. Entire human squadrons vanished. The Revenant itself shook as plasma tore across its hull. Fire alarms screamed. Yet the crew pressed on, driven by rage, desperation, and an unyielding will to survive. And then it happened. A small human strike team, flying stealth fighters, pierced the outer defenses and reached the war engine. Inside its core, massive energy conduits pulsed with deadly force. One precise strike could cripple the engine or trigger a chain reaction that destroyed everything nearby. Vale watched on the main screens as the fighters approached the core. Alien defenses converged on them. Beams sliced past, tearing apart one craft after another. But the lead fighter reached the conduit. Single missile struck true. The war engine shuddered. Its massive surface cracked. Sparks flew from the core. The pulse of energy slowed. The alien fleet panicked. Without the core fully operational, their coordination failed. Cruisers collided. Fighters spun out of control. Chaos reigned. The Revenant fired everything it had. Its cannons tore through the weakened shields of the war engine. The human fleet pressed forward with renewed courage, knowing this was their only chance. Then, the war engine's core began to destabilize. Energy readings spiked. The structure groaned under pressure. Vale's heart pounded. One miscalculation, and the explosion could reach Earth. "Prepare for evacuation," he ordered. "We stay until the core is fully disabled, then we leave. Or we die here." Minutes stretched like hours. The fleet hammered at the war engine, firing relentlessly. The core sparked violently, warning of imminent meltdown. Pilots shouted, engineers scrambled, alarms screamed. The void was chaos, but humanity held together. Finally, the core collapsed. A massive explosion tore through the war engine. Energy cascaded in waves, ripping apart its surface. Alien ships were destroyed in the blast. The shockwave rocked the human fleet, but the Revenant held. Smoke and debris filled the void. Silence followed. For the first time, the alien armada had been broken. Their flagship destroyed, their war engine annihilated. And humanity, though battered and bloodied, had survived. Captain Vale looked at the stars, at the smoldering remains. Of the alien fleet, it's done. For now, he said quietly. But even as the human ships regrouped, a signal pulsed from deep space. Not from the destroyed fleet, not from the war engine. Something new, something bigger, had noticed Earth. Had won a battle? But the war was far from over, and humanity would not retreat. The war engine was gone. The alien fleet scattered, broken and burning. Humanity had survived a battle no one had thought possible. Yet victory felt incomplete. Somewhere beyond the stars, the alien empire was still watching, waiting, planning a response that could destroy Earth entirely. Captain Eric Vale stood on the bridge of the Revenant, staring at the void. The crew around him were exhausted, wounded, and frightened, but their eyes shone with something the aliens could never understand. Defiance. "Status report," Vale said. "Ships accounted for," an officer replied. "Most systems are damaged. Supplies are low. But we are alive." Vale nodded. "Good, that is enough for now." Even as they repaired their ships, humanity was not idle. Engineers pored over alien technology scavenged from destroyed cruisers. Scientists experimented. With weapons that could strike faster, hit harder, and travel farther, every destroyed ship, every broken drone became a lesson. Every loss became fuel for revenge. On Earth, leaders across nations met in secret. They knew the alien empire would return. Their fleets, though battered, were growing stronger. They would not wait for another strike. They would take the fight to the enemy. The plan was dangerous. Madness, some said. But for humanity, there was no other choice. The Revenant led the charge. Its engines roared as it jumped into deep space, carrying pilots, soldiers, and weapons far beyond the outer systems. They had tracked signals from the alien empire, signals that led to the heart of their territory. This was no longer a defensive battle. Humanity would strike directly into the empire. As the fleet approached the alien homeworld, the enormity of the enemy's power became clear. Entire planets had been converted into war factories. Massive fleets patrolled the space lanes. Alien soldiers, larger and stronger than anything on Earth, prepared for war. But humanity had learned something vital. Alien power depended on control and fear. Humanity depended on unpredictability and fury. The Revenant moved into the fleet with precision. Its cannons roared, tearing through cruisers. Human fighters swarmed enemy ships, striking from angles no one expected. Entire squadrons of alien vessels fell in seconds. Chaos spread across the armada. Yet at the heart of it all, the alien leaders watched calmly. They had anticipated resistance. They had anticipated courage, but they had not anticipated humanity. On the Revenant, Captain Vale stared at the largest structure yet, the Empire's central command station. Bigger than moons, bristling with weapons, it was the brain of the entire armada. Destroy it, and the Empire would falter. Fail, and humanity would be crushed before they could even land. "Target the station," Vale ordered. Every ship, every fighter focus fire, we hit it together. The fleet surged forward, firing everything they had. Energy beams lanced through space, missiles streaked like meteors, railguns tore through armor. Alien defenses concentrated on the Revenant, but the human ships weaved through the storm, striking at weak points, sabotaging systems. Inside the command station, alien leaders realized the threat was worse than they imagined. Humanity was not just resisting, they were attacking. They had broken formation, infiltrated defenses, and were striking at the very heart of the Empire. One alien general roared in fury. They cannot be stopped. Destroy them. But the humans were relentless. Every strike destroyed more than ships. It destroyed fear. It destroyed confidence. It destroyed the illusion of control the aliens had held for centuries. The Revenant approached the station's core. Its weapons were primed, ready to fire. Every crew member knew what this moment meant. Success would cripple the Empire. Failure would be death. Vale took a deep breath. Prepare the final shot. We end this now. Engines hummed, cannons charged, and the fleet fired together. The station shook under the barrage. Energy conduits exploded. Weapons malfunctioned. Entire sections collapsed into space. The aliens panicked. Their perfect order shattered. Their fleets fell into disarray. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, soldiers fled. Humanity had done the impossible. They had brought chaos to the Empire itself. And then, the final coordinated strike, the Revenant fired its ultimate weapon. A beam of pure energy tore through the core of the command station. The explosion lit up the void like a new sun. Shockwaves destroyed surrounding ships. Empire's brain was gone. Silence followed. Humanity's fleet regrouped, battered but alive. The alien empire was crippled. Their fleets scattered. Their factories burned. Their soldiers fled. Captain Vale looked at his crew, exhausted, bloodied, yet victorious. The galaxy has learned something today, he said quietly. Humanity. But even as they celebrated, deep space stirred. Signals flickered from beyond. The aliens were not gone. They would return. They always returned. Yet humanity had changed. They no longer waited for attacks. They no longer hid. The galaxy had learned a truth the aliens could not ignore. Humans fought like predators, survived like predators. And when cornered, they struck like predators. And from now on, every species in the stars would remember one lesson: never underestimate humanity. The alien command station was gone. The Empire's fleets were scattered, broken, and leaderless. Humanity had struck at the heart of their power and survived. Yet Captain Arkvale knew better than to celebrate too soon. The galaxy was vast, and the aliens were patient. They would return. But this time, humanity would not wait. The Revenant, scarred but unbroken, led a fleet beyond the outer systems. They moved like hunters, tracking the remnants of the alien armada. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier knew what was at stake. This was not just a battle, it was the war itself, and humanity intended to win it completely. Across the void, alien ships tried to regroup, but without their command, they were weak, disorganized, and fearful. Reports came in of entire fleets surrendering rather than face the human attackers. The galaxy's most feared warriors, the Empire's elite, were falling to a species they had once mocked. On the bridge of the Revenant, Vale addressed his crew. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We've survived impossible odds, destroyed their strongest weapons, shattered their fleets. Now we finish it. No mercy. No hesitation. Humanity decides the outcome. The fleet advanced on the alien homeworld. Planets once converted into factories of war now burned under precise human strikes. Missiles, plasma cannons, and railguns struck simultaneously, leaving nothing untouched. Every attack crippled supply lines, destroyed energy cores, and dismantled weapon systems. The aliens could no longer regroup. Even as destruction spread, humanity moved with care. Civilians on unoccupied planets were evacuated. Scientists and engineers ensured that no species other than the enemy was harmed. Humanity's goal was not mindless slaughter. It It was a victory in survival. At the center of the Empire's territory floated their largest vessel, Cal-Sold dreadnought designed to inspire terror. Its surface bristled with weapons, and its hull seemed impervious. Vale stared at it, his jaw tight. That's our target. Take it down. All of it. Nothing else matters. The Revenant surged forward. Fighters swarmed, striking from every angle. Missiles streaked through space like meteors. Cannons fired in synchronized waves. The alien dreadnought's shields flared, but humanity's assault was relentless. Every strike found a weak point. Explosions tore through the hull. Fires raged across the surface. Inside the dreadnought, alien leaders screamed orders, but their ships were collapsing, their defenses failing. Panic spread like wildfire. They had never faced an enemy like this, an enemy that learned, adapted, and struck with unstoppable force. Vale stood on the bridge, watching the destruction. Keep firing. Push forward. We end this now. The fleet concentrated its final energy. The Revenant charged its core cannon, a weapon that had destroyed the Empire's central command before. Its beam hummed with power, brighter than a sun. With a deafening roar, it fired. The dreadnought erupted. Its massive hull split, and fragments of alien metal rained across the void. Surrounding ships were destroyed in the blast. Silence fell over the battlefield. Humanity had struck the final blow. For a long moment, nothing moved. Human crews stared at the void, breathing heavily. They had done the impossible. Against all odds, against centuries of fear and power, they had won. Captain Vale finally spoke. The galaxy will remember this day. Humanity stood against extinction and won. News traveled faster than light. Across the stars, scattered civilizations watched as the remnants of the alien empire were defeated. Messages of respect and fear spread. Humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy, and no longer were they a young, primitive species. Now they were predators, survivors, conquerors of their destiny. On Earth, people celebrated cautiously. Cities were rebuilt, families reunited. Soldiers returned home, scarred but proud. Humanity had survived the apocalypse, but they also learned a truth deeper than survival. Unity, courage, and willpower could overcome any force, no matter how powerful. Vale looked at the stars one last time. The Revenant had survived, though battered and wounded. It had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve when pushed to the edge. Somewhere in the galaxy, new threats would rise. That was inevitable. But humanity had learned a lesson that no one could take away. Never underestimate them. And now, the universe knew it. The humans had fought, survived, and conquered. The galaxy would never forget the species that refused to fall, the species that had turned fear into fury, the species that had shown the stars what it truly meant to fight. The war was over for now, but humanity's legend had only just begun.